clinging to the hills high above Port Charlotte, on the Rins of Islay, is the enigma we know as Octomore. For it is Octomore, too, that once housed a distillery older than the beautiful village it overlooks today. Because Octomore is a throwback. It's a throwback to the days when fierce independence and self-sufficiency were the only option, and the concept of distillation was revolutionary. Now, the men who would tend the fields of Octomore would groan the barley with their hands and cut the peat from the banks. Octomore would burst onto the scene in 1816, long before the Clyde puffers were bringing coal from Glasgow. And they would create a rich and vibrant, new age peaty whiskey that would take the world by storm. Now we're confident today this version of Octomore would represent our forefathers well, and they would salute us. For it is Octomore that is the iron fist in the velvet glove. To Octomore. All right, enough of the fun and games, everyone. I want to welcome you to this week's Happy Hour with the Lincoln. As you can already tell, this is a very special and monumental happy hour because it's our 20th. Hard to believe I've done 20 of these already, but to mark this special occasion, the only thing that I could think of was to get down to the store and divvy up the cash and get myself a bottle of my favorite whiskey, which is Octomore. Now, if you can remember the story, Octomore is distilled by Brewed Lodge, and the first time that I had tried Octomore is when I actually went to Scotland, and we've done a lot of the Brewed Lodge brands. We did Brewed Lodge 25, which was incredibly awesome. Then one of the very first whiskeys that we tasted was Port Charlotte, which is a little bit more peaty. So they have this Octomore, and the story is when I first went in there, I said, I'm looking for the smokiest, like I want to drink a campfire, like a cigar with alcohol on top of it. Give me the smokiest stuff you got. So the guy pours me a drink, and I was just blown away by how much peat flavor it was. And it was a good whiskey, too. It just wasn't overly dominated by that peat smoky taste, but it was just a really, really good whiskey. Now, that one was the Octomore 6.3. Now, to give you guys a kind of understanding about it, the scotches that when you're looking for that peaty or smoky flavor, it's measured in scotches by ppm, parts per million, and it's how they distill that whiskey, and when they're drying out the barley, how much of that gets into the barley itself, and that's how they measure it. So when you're talking about something that's really smoky, and some of the past smoky stuff that I like and that I've tested here, Port Charlotte itself was about 40 to 45, I think it is. Ardbeg, Lagavulin, Lafroig, some of those very popular peaty that people think are really, really peaty are upwards close to 50. The same thing with Peat Monster. Peat Monster itself is probably somewhere around the high 40s to 50s. To give you an idea of what I have right here in my hand, this thing has a ppm of 169. It's like 3.5 times the peat is in this. So it's like way up here. And this is like elevated to like the holy land of Scotch whiskeys when it comes to peat. So I haven't touched it. I was waiting for this special occasion for everyone. And the other thing that's great about this Octomore is they have about, I think it's 6 or 8 of these. Let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's like 7 different types of these whiskeys. I'll put the pictures up so you know for sure. And they actually have one that's even a little bit higher than this. It's in a black bottle, go figure, right? And it has about it's over 200 ppm. So it's giving you an idea of just how much peat is in this thing. So without any further wasting of time, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bust this thing open and get down to some business. I want to hear it. Let me hear it. Let me blow it your way. Do you smell it? Now, something like this, we talked about before starter whiskeys and different type of whiskeys, and it's all fun and games sometimes when you you joke about whiskey and getting a buzz and all that stuff. And you got your cold cock whiskeys and other stuff that you taste. But truly great whiskey. You know, there's whiskeys that you're just not supposed to drink by yourself. Like if you just want to go get hammered, this is not what you want to do. If you want, this is a whiskey that you sit down and you share stories with people. And, you know, this is just a bottle that needs to be shared. And unfortunately, I'm doing this on video and you guys can't be here and smell this. But this is like going to be, it's like an experience, you know? Just smelling this stuff, it's so much different. I'm not like the super, even though I like Scotch whiskeys and other kind of whiskeys, I'm not like a super aficionado. I never understand those tasting notes and stuff, but you can just tell it's something that like I would get the smell of this is so unique. It's like, it would be like the day they opened up King Tut's tomb and like 10,000 or 10 billion year old air just come blowing through that's never been smelled before. Maybe it's not that wild, but man, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's just completely different. I can't even describe it. And to do it justice, I actually got a better glass for this one where we can get some of the flavors to come through it. So I'm just going to pour it here. I mean, it is really, really nice looking in color. Look at that. And this smell. Just, I can't get over the smell. I mean, it is so much different than everything else. Maybe if I smell it for like an hour, I'll eventually figure it out. Maybe I'll smell it later and then I'll just put the link underneath it. Hey, this is the word I was looking for. Oh, it's so good. Man, that is so good. Excuse me. I know you guys are just sitting there wondering what I'm taking my time. It's like I feel like I should be holding it with like white gloves like they do the Stanley Cup. Like, no, it's Octomore. Just taste it here. Oh my goodness, man. Guys, I don't have words for this. Like I said, this is just a whiskey that this is supposed to be shared. And that's the unfortunate thing right now is I'm doing this on video, home alone. I'm not gonna drink any more of it. This is the kind of whiskey that you tell stories to. This is the kind of whiskey that you sit around with your best friends, you know, after they achieved great successes in their life, or you got that promotion or a special occasion. You know, just, it's one of those whiskeys that need to be shared with people. That's how good this is. And I wish I could somehow translate the amazing taste of this. Now it's going to set you back. This is not cheap and it shouldn't be. This is about $170 to $200 where you get it. And it's not aged very long. And like I said, I love the bottling, and they even have one that's a little bit more peaty, but it's really hard for me to do it justice with words. So I'm going to drink it. It does smell a little fruity, but maybe that's me. Maybe I'm the one. It's just unbelievable. I think I've already said that. I think you know where I stand. This is by far the most superior whiskey I have ever drank. And it's heavily peated. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's like, you know, the moment you drink it, you feel like you just opened your mouth over top of a damp campfire. But it doesn't, even though it has that high peat in it, it's not overbearing. There's still a great balance of whiskey and the rest of its flavors. So, unreal. I'm just going to take a moment to savor this. And you know what? I don't have anything to talk about. Let's just talk about stocks, because I'm just going to sit here and let this manifest rather than tell a story. So I'm just going to talk about stocks right now, and then you know, we'll move on to something else. Okay, well, we'll take a look at the market, and at least this week we saw one day of good ranges and movement, because this thing, if you remember from last week, and it's even the last couple of weeks, it just had this slow melt up, and it's just kind of been ramping and camping just in a really, really tight range. And most of the stocks that have been trading outside of a handful have been in a pretty tight range. Even though they're going up, they're still in a very, very tight range, which if you're day trading and you're trying to capture alpha, can make it a little bit difficult at times. But after the State of the Union, market goes on a big tear. There was some really, really great opportunities and a lot of good action there. And then it kind of sold off a little bit on Thursday and just levels out and does practically nothing on Friday. So we're still kind of in that mode where it seems to me like right now, the only time you're getting these big moves, and understand that this move that they had on Wednesday was the first time, I think somewhere, don't quote me to the exact specifics, but it was like the first time in 50 days or 50 trading sessions that the market actually closed up or down 1% intraday. So we have not had a 1% intraday move up or down until after the State of the Union address. So it shows you how calm this thing has gotten over the last few months, how just the intraday volatility and action has kind of been limited to both sides. Now, as I was saying, I get the feeling now the only time we're going to see these epic moves is when we have some sort of political event or Fed event or something that has a big impact on the market. And maybe that's even stretching it because we really haven't seen that. Would be nice, though, to return to the days of good volatility and good balance either way. And I'm sure at some point it will. But for right now, that's exactly what it is. Now, if there is a fade and you're looking for market fades, are we going to sell off? Are we going to pull back? If you're looking for something, you have to think that the most logical spot would be filling in the gap before Wednesday's rip. You know, that would be somewhere maybe 237.29. Got there kind of low. Well, not kind of low, but got there close to or started approaching that area on Friday before it just leveled out, which seems to be also a continual pattern with the market. If it doesn't get a sell-off by the first 2 hours and stick, then at some point later on in the day, you start to see a rally. Can't remember the last day where it's just sold off, went down, and stayed down the entire day. I can't even remember that. So you'd have to look at this number first. If it gets down in there, it'll probably base and hold out. And if you're looking for another cycle, then maybe if you break this 10 moving average, we can start talking about, corrections and stuff. I wouldn't even talk corrections under 10 moving average. I wouldn't do that. You're always going to have people that in every bull market that's going to talk about corrections. But living through a couple of corrections myself since I'm on 17 years of trading, I can tell you there's a lot of warning signs that come out first before you see those types of corrections. And I don't see those big warning signs. You would have to get under this 20 moving average, shake down 5%, and have some sort of political or financial unrest of some sort or overhanging issue, maybe another country involved as well, to get things to cycle down and reignite fear because there isn't any in the market. So after giving you this long version of the market, let's talk about individual stocks. And I'm going to look here at Clovis. This has been a stock I've been messing around with for a really long time. And I've done both shorts and both longs on it. And it's pulled back nicely into some of your nearer term moving averages and VWAPs on the daily chart. And it's just kind of sneaking back up here and starting to get a little bit of momentum. Now, recently, biotechs have been the hot sector. It just sort of kind of rotates itself. It's always that way with trading. But this last week was sort of a biotech week. We saw monster moves in Kite. We saw strong moves in Blue. These moves were listed on the watch lists from last week in the happy hour. So it's not all about drinking and getting loopy. There's actually great information in these lists. But being serious, it closed above the 10 and 20 moving average on a daily chart on Friday. Got a nice little ramp to close. If you build roughly around these levels of $63, and it can hold that, $62.50 to $63 can build and hold. I think, biotechs as well continue to show some love. You may see this thing try to get back up into this triple top of 65.86. Now that's a heavy area of resistance, so I wouldn't expect a lot more than that. If this thing did get up there, it would probably become a quadruple top. It's had a really rough time with that area, and this is probably just a very temporary trade because once it makes that move, it may just get rejected, and this move ultimately, in the future may turn out to be a lower high, and then it may actually test that 50 moving average lower. So really close to the resistance. It's good for a trade, and it has a decent little setup working right there. Now NSP is a little bit different, and this is kind of what I'm possibly envisioning for those who want to know about Clovis, is they kind of pull back into the moving averages, and then they start launching. Now this thing is ripping back up over high, and it closed over high a day, so you might get a really nice move. One of the mistakes traders make, very specific to new traders, is they start buying breakouts after the breakout happens. If you really want to make money buying breakouts, you're buying in anticipation of that breakout. So when you look at a chart like an NSP, the real money isn't buying it after it breaks the high. You might make some money if you buy it at 86. That was the high. You make 86 to 87. That's good for a trader. You can make a living on that. But the real money is when it comes down here, builds these nice pivot wicks, holds a moving average and starts to curl, because you could get in, several dollars early and ride this thing up way before the chasers get involved. Because if this thing breaks over 87, a whole cornucopia of chasers are going to get into this and send it to the moon. But I like the chart. I still think there's some trading range left in it. And on the flip side of that, if it happens to get very parabolic, then I would most certainly look to short that thing. Now let's talk about, the hero itself, the Studley stud of the week. All eyes on Snap, right? Big hype machine around the Snap IPO. And it's kind of bizarre. I mean, that's just, you have to go through these things. I remember there was a lot of hype on Facebook's IPO. There was a ton, I think more on Baba's IPO. And sometimes they're awesome and sometimes they'll fizzle. Like in the case of FB, it was a nightmare. It was a total bomb. But the stock, eventually after a couple of months or so, actually it was longer than a couple of months, it got itself together and started making a rally. The thing that you have to wonder about in the age that we're in is just logic investing terms. And I think there's a tweet that had been going around from several people where I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to try to do my best to quote it. So my numbers and my accuracy of verbatim here might be way off. But it was something in reference to how SpaceX was valued at roughly $12 billion, which, Tesla, SpaceX, shoots rockets into space and lands them safely. Something that is that possibly could change the very concept of the way we live our lives. And it's valued at 12 billion. And then you got some rainbow filter app where people send goofy crap all day long, valued at 2 to 2.5 times higher than SpaceX. And sometimes you have to take that. That's the way the market works. And I guess where I'm going with this point is when you start trading out, your natural tendency to try to make sense out of stuff is there. As a human, you're like, I want to figure this out. I have to make sense of this. But the market never makes sense. Stupid stuff like this comes by all the time. Because the world could live without Snapchat, but the world's not going to live very long without some of these biotech companies and the drugs that they provide, and some of these other systems and programs in place for your survival. But that is what it is, and if it wants to go up, it goes up. Now, as far as a trading idea, you'd have to be very careful. It's going up here from I think it was going to IPO in the 12s, changed to 17. Now it's sitting up here. This is way the hell overbought. I don't know if it's worth. I'm not an IPO trader, so I really don't like to short stocks, no matter how high they go up in their very first infancy. Plus, it's so difficult to get shares to short these things. But keep out for it. Maybe you get it. Maybe something's there. There could still be, there's going to be a lot of volume and activity. So there'll still be dip buying opportunities. There'll still be intraday opportunities where it builds a base and launches off of the base. And hopefully during the week, there'll be some shorts. But I think right now, if you're wanting to invest in this, I would not do it here. It's just not probably the best thing that you can do. Wait a little while, let it settle in, let some of the volume taper out. I forget, I think it was like 100 million volume or something. It's just berserk. But we'll see how this plays out as well the remainder of the week. So good old Snap. Now, a former stud that used to have Snap status that was a hero that maybe ended up in zero is NVDA. You guys, if you traded for any length of time here recently, you're aware of what's the deal here. Former runner, huge run. This thing was in the 50s and 60s, launches all the way up to 120. This thing really looks like it's backsiding. Now, when you go back and you look at charts like ACIA, one that had behavior very much like this. Before that, you had GoPro, you had Fit, you had other stocks that had that hype machine for them too, and they really, really went up. This was one of them. And they have this look to them where they start to fade after months, where they try to save that stock, they try to keep it up above triple digits like ACIA, and they can't do it, and it just sells off. Then it makes a 1 or 2 day rally, and then it just wipes that out. NVIDIA has that. And you're sitting down here at 96.89 where I have this alert. It's a very big number right now. This thing has been fighting it off for the last week or so. Long term, I can really see this thing going the way of the rest of those stocks that I mentioned and ending up way down there at $80. You know, it may sound nuts now, but by the end of the year, 80, 70. So I'm looking to short basically any kind of rip in this stock, any kind of vertical move, any kind of pop, any kind of PR, any gap up or anything. I may be totally wrong here. You're under every single imaginable short-term moving average now. I think every single bounce is going to get sold in this name, and it's ultimately going to trend down. So NVIDIA would like to start just really taking advantage of that. And last, how about a little bit of TTD, the trade desk? This is up huge. This thing's from 28 to 44 in this month, like the last couple of weeks. So it's a huge move since earnings. The problem I'm having with this is it doesn't really have a lot of intraday volume that's allowed, a real big speed up move with volume where you could get a nice short off on it. It just hasn't been that way. So it might be a swing. Maybe it gets up a little bit higher, maybe a little closer to 50, maybe one more day like it had on Friday. Then start looking at something. But I think this is going to be a short here pretty soon. Not because it's a turd ball, not because it's junk. It might be, I don't know. I don't look at financials like that. Just because the sheer fact that maybe it's gotten a little bit ahead of itself here, moving a substantial amount in both price and percentage move. So that's something we want to look at. Well, that's going to do it for me right now. As you can see, I've barely drank this. I'm just taking my time. I'm trying to savor every moment of this experience. And this has really not been any kind of review. It's just been me bragging and going off into euphoria land about the taste of this whiskey. Somebody probably would drink it somewhere and go, oh, it's just piss, and just spit it out. But it's just one, like I said, the only thing I can say, it's just one of those whiskeys, just like the Brewed Lottage 25. There's these special whiskeys that are supposed to be shared with people. That's what it's all about. Telling stories with your friend, reacquainting with people, celebrating things. It's just a special occasion type of whiskey, and it's one that needs to be savored, It'll probably take me 3 hours to finish this. I just don't want to finish it. And I don't even want to touch it. I'm afraid I'm going to knock this bottle over. Like I said, it should be handled with kid gloves. Like, oh, it's Octomore. Oh, anyway. As always, if you guys need some help with trading, make sure you visit thelincolnlist.com and take a free trial anytime you want. We had a good week of trading. Things have been good. We had some great opportunities coming up. So if you're struggling, make sure you go to the website, take a free trial. If not, and you're looking for some education, got a whole education section with whiteboard lessons and other kind of videos that'll help you with your trading. Until episode number 21. For a moment, let us savor together the wonderful, amazing greatness that is in my hand, Octomore. Yes. Cheers.